Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Levin here. Our number, excuse me, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. More polls coming out. Bottom line is it's tied, the race, according to these polls. That's what it is. A little up here, a little down there. I wasn't here last evening. President Trump invited me to interview him about something very special that you're going to find out about in a moment. I interviewed President Trump for 2 hours straight, Mr. Producer. And this Saturday, this Sunday, special Labor Day weekend editions of Life, Liberty, and Levin. Now, you've seen him interview before, but I haven't interviewed him since March of 2023. And he and I have excellent chemistry. He has said it himself. And the reason is I'll ask a question, I'll let him finish the answer. And we get into all kinds of subjects you might anticipate, of course. But I also asked him if he received a call or a note after he was shot from Kamala Harris, Mr. Producer. I asked him if he received a note or a call from George W. Bush. We talked at length about the big issues and family and so forth. And you know, you can learn a lot when you keep your mouth shut. You just listen. And unfortunately, too many interviewers haven't figured that out. Now, I hope you'll watch it. Now, it's Labor Day weekend. If you don't think you'll be around, go ahead and set your DVRs now. If I don't mention it, nobody else will. Which is really too bad. So we did, that's where we were last evening. He couldn't do it any earlier. I hate to miss the radio show. But he is hustling. He is out there. He is busy. I don't know how he does it. And literally just before he sat down for our talk, our discussion. And by the way, that's what it was. It was just a discussion, you know. With the other people in the media, the other press, I should say. I'm not press, but them. It's, well, what do you mean by dictator? What do you mean? I don't do that. I'm not interested in that. And so he's able to speak and express his views about a number of things. But right before he entered the room and sat down for the discussion, he'd been indicted again in Washington, D.C. by Jack Smith. And we talk about that. And we talk about other things as well. I see a chyron on Fox. Harris closes gap in several key swing states. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been through many presidential elections. This time, in 1980, Ronald Reagan was trailing Carter. It's just impossible to know right now what's what. It just is. And so you keep plugging ahead. And we're going to talk about what's being done to this country by the Democrats, the media, and Kamala Harris, of course. Anyway, so these will be special editions of Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have to trim it just a little bit. We're going to do everything we can not to edit the meat of the interviews, because I don't believe in that anyway. Just for this Labor Day weekend, it's an exclusive with President Trump. There'll be no other interviews, I guess, until next week. And as I said, it was wide-ranging. You'll learn a great deal about the president. And yes, we did talk about the day we're shot, but I dressed in a little bit of a different way. How Melania got word, the reaction of his kids. So we get into family as well as the other issues. So I know you're going to like it, particularly you in this audience. And spread the word, honestly, because the more people who watch it, the better. The more people who watch it, the better. Because they'll see him. It doesn't do anything for me, so they'll see him. You know, there was a piece in the New York Times the other day by Rich Lowry, the head muckety-muck at National Review. And it's getting a lot of attention, and it should. It is, in fact, a very intelligent piece. Now, he's got his little shots in there against Trump, as everybody seems to. But when you overlook it, because there's not much of that, he's right. And what he says in this New York Times piece as a guest opinion writer is, look, the problem with Kamala Harris is character. It's her character. She lies. She flip-flops. She's deceiving the American people. She's hiding from the American people. We don't even know if her flip-flops are honest. They're likely not. And I'll put it my way, she's a chameleon. So, yes, she's a radical leftist, but she's a chameleon for purpose of elections. He says it's important to raise all these issues, but it's more important to link them to character. And he explains this whole border czar issue. She doesn't care what happens on the border. She doesn't care about the consequences of what happens to kids, to others. She doesn't care about what happens to the women on the border, the drugs coming into the country. She doesn't care, and she doesn't act like she cares. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care about inflation and the impact on the middle class in particular. She just doesn't care. And she's never cared. As vice president, she never said anything about it. She defended Bidenomics. Now she claims bread's too expensive and so forth and so on. That's obvious to everybody. All she's doing is telling us what we already know. But she doesn't care. She has no plans to do anything about it. In fact, she wants to spend more. And he points out this is a huge character flaw. This is a huge character flaw. He talks further. When you look at all these issues, nationalizing healthcare, if you will, taking healthcare, private healthcare from people who like it. She doesn't care. So what? Eliminating fracking, which would choke energy production in America. The consequences you can only imagine. To jobs, to what happens in the winter, the production of electricity even, and so forth. And so, she doesn't care. And that's a very, very important point. It's a character issue. And he points out it should not only be brought up, it should be repeated. It should be stated over and over and over again that Kamala Harris does not care if people go without gasoline. She doesn't care if people go without food. She doesn't care if people can't pay their bills. She's immune to it. She doesn't care about the crime and the destruction that result from the open borders. And so now she just lies about it. Or you might say flip-flop, but she just lies about it. And her tax policy, she doesn't care if it destroys jobs. So what? She doesn't care if wages are stagnant while inflation is going up. Doesn't even talk about it. And I think he's very much onto something here. Very much onto something. Kamala Harris and this guy, Tampon Tim, they're trying to make themselves into likable figures. People who care. Very ambiguous, very amorphous. And they shouldn't be able to get away with that because they're nothing like that. They've done a lot of harm to a lot of people. And they'll do a lot of harm to a lot more people should, God forbid, they win. So the issues are important, but he points out, tie it to her character. I agree with this. I mean, the title of his piece is Trump Can Win on Character. And also look at the juxtaposition. I would go further a little bit than Rich, and you write a column, you can't fit it all in. She doesn't care what happened in the surrender of Afghanistan. She doesn't care what happened to those 13 soldiers who died tragically and horribly. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care what will happen to the state of Israel should they surrender to Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah and the Houthis. She doesn't care. And it's true. It also has the benefit of being true. And as she's trying to avoid all these positions she took in 2019 and 2020 without explanation, he points out you can explain that she's an opportunist. She's a chameleon. My word, but he would say the same, I think. That she'll change her statement to deceive the voters on anything and everything. That she has true beliefs, that they're so radical to the left of Bernie Sanders. But she doesn't want those true beliefs to be on the ballot. She doesn't want you voting on those. So I would argue, she's the most dishonest candidate to ever run for office. Ever. Ever. And so I think this is a very smart and perceptive point by Lowry. Link it back to character. She doesn't care about the 13 who died. She doesn't care about all the mayhem, murder, rape, the drug cartels on the border. If she cared about it, she would have done something about it. She doesn't care that the nation is nearly bankrupt. She doesn't care that interest rates are through the roof, that cars and homes are unaffordable. She just doesn't care. I agree. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the reporting on Israel and the terrorists that surround her is always as if Israel's the issue, Israel. And that, what about Iran? What if Iran attacks? It looks like Israel's had about enough. The reporting from the Middle East is that Hezbollah is shocked by what Israel did to it early in the morning last week by blowing out 3/4 of its missile sites through its intelligence and through its capabilities. When you have 100 jet fighters flying over a small area, let me tell you something, that gets your attention. And they did it with pinpoint accuracy. Just blew these missile, they use these missile cannons, if you will, these missile tubes, just unbelievably so. At the same time, they're mopping up, still extremely dangerous, in Gaza, trying to hunt down Sinwar, who's dressed like a woman. That's what they say, he's disguised like a woman. And at the same time, what's happening in Judea and Samaria, Israel's East Bank, what Jordan calls its West Bank, is that Iran has been inflaming the Fatah party. That would be Abbas, who pretends to be a moderate. And they've gone in there now to kill the terrorists who've been killing randomly. And so looks like Israel's had about enough. And they have the capacity to do enormous damage to any of these countries and in enormous ways. Every battle doesn't have to be urban warfare as it is in Gaza. Hezbollah, even though they do hide out in Beirut and other towns, that would not be urban warfare. Iran would not be urban warfare. Yemen with the Houthis would not be urban warfare. They have the capacity to do enormous damage. Just making the point, because I think it's very, very important. I want to give you an example of something, and I asked President Trump about this. The bipartisan immigration bill. Do you realize how ignorant the media are on this subject? That they haven't read it. It's a little over 300 pages. They really don't even know what's in it. Kamala Harris said she would sign that bill on day one. And they used this so-called bipartisan bill as a fig leaf that would have resolved everything. Not a single Republican in the House, 3 Republicans in the Senate supported it. And when it came to the final vote, even Lankford, the author of it, voted no, as did McConnell, who was the brainchild of this ass-backward idea. It was negotiated in secret. We remember at the time, I believe Mike Lee was on the program complaining about that. It was dropped in their laps, and Ted Cruz told me 20 minutes after it was released, they said, no, this can't fly. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons, 5 simple bullet points on what this bill would have done. It would have done 100 horrific things, but 5 key issues. So you know what to say, more than Republicans apparently, the next time this comes up. I'll be right back. This is Mark Levin with an urgent message. We are living in grave and dark economic times that are going to get worse. We just saw an abysmal jobs report while unemployment shot up to the highest level since the end of 2021. Meanwhile, the stock market looks like a gamble. Many banks are getting crushed as recession fears mount. The S&P Banks Index fell 2.4% in a single day. That's a lot. Regional banks fell nearly 3%. That's even more. These are bad signs. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts. You need to protect your wealth. That's where diversification and gold comes in. It's been a bedrock of wealth preservation for centuries. And the best company I know of is Advantage Gold. Their experts can help you protect your savings from economic chaos. Call now, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Call now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Blasting conservative fire. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Ladies and gentlemen, the so-called Bipartisan Immigration Act, or Border Security Act, was no such thing. I'm going to give you 5 reasons, and I will post them later. Under the bill, the Kamala Harris says she will sign on day one, which the Republicans rejected. It would enshrine in federal law catch and release. Catch and release is the reason we have millions of illegal aliens in America. Donald Trump had stay in Mexico. Then we will adjudicate, vet, and make a determination. Biden-Harris, they signed an executive order eliminating that. And so we have catch and release, where our poor Border Patrol, if they even are able, they catch the person and then they release them into our country. They could be criminals if they don't know who they are. They could be terrorists. They could be murderers. They could be MS-13. They could be that Venezuelan vile gang. So catch and release was codified under the bill that Kamala Harris says she will sign on day one. What else? It automatically gave work permits to illegal aliens. You step your foot into this country, get a work permit, you can take a job from an American citizen. Work permits will become a statutory right, a federal legal right under this so-called bipartisan bill. It's not today, except for Biden's executive order. It would be part of the law. Ready for the next one? It's amazing how the media haven't told you any of this. Number 3, American taxpayers would be forced to pay for lawyers for illegal aliens who would use those lawyers to fight deportation, which could go on for years and years. They would get free lawyers. Do you have free lawyers, America? Do you have, Mr. Producer? So illegal aliens would get free lawyers paid for by you, the taxpayer of America. That would be a matter of federal law under the Harris-Biden immigration law that she says, I'll sign on day one. Number 4, 5,000 illegal aliens a day would be permitted under the law. So you're allowing illegal aliens as a matter of federal law. It would be enshrined in the federal code. That's 1.8 million known illegal aliens every year. The gotaways, of course, they can't count. They can only estimate because they got away. But 1.8 million per year. That means in 10 years' time, 18 million illegal aliens, in addition to the gotaways. So you're talking 25, 30 million aliens, mostly illegal, in a 10-year period. That would be a matter of federal law. Federal law. Number 5, billions and billions of your taxpayers' money under this law would go to sanctuary cities that remain sanctuary cities to this day. Specifically go to sanctuary cities for the purpose of helping them deal with the illegal aliens who are attracted to these cities because they're sanctuary cities. In other words, Democrat cities. And billions of dollars would go to non-government organizations, these so-called nonprofit groups that promote illegal immigration. billions to those groups. That's why this detestable Senator Christopher Murphy of Connecticut said in so many words that the border never is closed under the bill. And there's another provision under the bill, just so you know, that a president can waive all these caps and limitations if he notifies Congress. So it's a bill that does everything and does nothing. You keep hearing them say, but there's $600 million to finish the wall. It takes billions of dollars to finish the wall. That money was already put aside. Donald Trump went into court after court. He litigated against these groups. He litigated against the Democrats. He won. There were even some conservatives and Republicans who rejected what he did. I defended it. That way they can say, there's $600 million to finish the wall. Why don't you just finish the wall now? Just do it. So you have these other points, too. So why do they keep flying in illegal aliens? Almost 1 million of them so far, and they did it under the cover of dark. You and I didn't know about it until like 4 to 6 months ago. There's no requirement that they keep doing it, but they keep doing it. Why did they give out an app to illegal aliens all over the world, or would-be illegal aliens, foreigners all over the world, citizens of other countries? If you want to come to the country, this is what you do. You send us a message on the app, and you come through the port of entry. Well, no wonder illegal immigration is down, Mr. Producer. You come through the port of entry, you're not counted as an illegal alien. So there's all this sleazy stuff going on, as you can imagine. When something doesn't make sense and your gut says they got to be lying, they're lying. So catch and release becomes a mandate under federal law. Work permits, a mandate under federal law. They're not a mandate now, they're executive orders. Taxpayer-funded lawyers for illegal aliens. Imagine the cost. That would become codified as a matter of federal law. 5,000 illegal aliens a day, 1.8 million a year, that we know of, would be a permissible number under federal law. Billions and billions to sanctuary cities, billions and billions to pro-illegal alien non-government organizations. And if it became law, it would never get undone. Do you want to know why, America? It doesn't take 60 votes to pass a law unless there's a filibuster, of course. To undo a law, it can also be filibustered. In other words, you would need 60 votes to undo this law. Donald Trump comes in and says, no, I want Wade in Mexico. We're not giving work permits to illegal aliens. No, we're not going to fund their lawyers. No, I don't agree with up to 5,000 illegal aliens a day, almost 2 million a year. Sorry, no. I don't want billions and billions going to sanctuary cities and pro-illegal alien NGOs. No. Well, you have to. Why? Because it's a matter of law. That's why Donald Trump opposed it. That's why the entire Republican caucus in the House opposed it. That's why virtually all Republican senators opposed it. That's why this was negotiated in secret. And so when they keep saying, bipartisan, that bipartisan bill, we could have gotten a wall, they are liars. Liars. It is important now that Republicans go on television and radio, particularly if they're members of Congress, know what the hell they're talking about. These are 5 very, very important points. Very, very important points. Would you support this bill, Mr. Producer? Hell no. And the point is, the Democrats do. And she said she'll sign it on day one. I want you to think about that. And, to tie to Larry's point, which is very important, Kamala Harris doesn't care about all the women and children who are sold into sex slavery on the border. She doesn't care about all the fentanyl coming across. She doesn't care about the criminals coming in, MS-13, the Venezuelan gangs. She doesn't care about any of it. Or she would have done something about it. or she would have done something about it. All the consequences, all the horrors, all the monsters set loose into this country. She doesn't care. Oh, she would have done something about it. Oh, I'm not the border czar, but you're the vice president of the United States. Well, now I support a wall. You don't care. It's still going on. Right now in your administration, Kamala, it's still going on right now. And you don't care. You don't care about the middle class struggling over inflation, the cost of gasoline and electricity, the cost of food, because you haven't done anything about it. You haven't done anything about it. You run the executive branch. You run the Senate. If you want to do something about it, the Republicans are there to help, but you won't. You haven't done anything about it. You haven't fixed it. You don't care. You talk about women's rights. You've destroyed women's sports. You took Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. Effectively, it's an education amendment in 1972, but nonetheless. What have you done? Nothing. But destroy it. You support men in women's sports. You're destroying athletic scholarship for girls to go to colleges. You're destroying women's sports generally. So you don't care about them. You don't care about them. You don't care about little kids having sex operations without parental involvement. You just pick for your running mate, Tampon Tim. That's what the law says in Minnesota. You don't believe in parental rights. You don't believe in parental involvement, even on how they raise their own kids. Even sex change operations. You don't care about parents. You don't care about little kids. That's the point. Character. She has no character. She's hiding out. So explain it. Use the issues and explain. She doesn't give a damn. You lose your private health care, you're forced into a government-run system. 42% of Canadians, I just looked this up, would go elsewhere, the United States if possible, for medical care. 42%. The number's even higher in Britain. Well, why would we import that into our system? Long waiting lines, people die while they have these horrendous diseases or conditions. Because she's an ideologue. She doesn't give a damn. She's not going to go through government health care. None of them do. They always cut the line, or they have a way out. They buy their way out. Just keep this in mind. The woman has no character. She doesn't care. She doesn't care what's happening to you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. We're not giving up this country without a fight. That's for damn sure. Oh, there's polls. Oh, the gap's filling. Oh, I don't give a damn. Don't be dispirited. Be strong, just like our forefathers. We love our flag. We love this country. We love our Constitution, and we love our liberty. We love our property rights. We love capitalism and despise socialism. That's correct. We're sick and tired of being told how bad we are. We're sick and tired of being lied to. And we have an opportunity to do something about it. And we must. 69 days from today. I'm going to do all I can to expose Kamala Harris and Tampon Tim. But I'm counting on you, the Paul Reveres, the Thomas Paines. President Trump says he believes in common sense. Thomas Paine's most famous pamphlet was called Common Sense. You need to spread the word. Today, tomorrow, and every day, 69 days. You need to use Labor Day to have a wonderful time, but use it as an opportunity. Spread the word. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. I want to inform Jake Tapper and the other January 6th. What should we call these people? January 6th obsessors. Jake Tapper, he asks Lindsey Graham the other day, will Donald Trump go to this event with January 6th, so January 6th, January 6th? You know, Donald Trump never asked anybody to harm anybody, period. And he's not charged with that either. He never asked anybody to harm anybody. But this is a strange focus and question, if you ask me. Because I want to take you down memory lane. Again, I want to arm you with arguments, with points, because you are the Thomas Paines and the Paul Reveres. I'm going to read something to you that was written by our friend Deborah Burlingame in the Wall Street Journal 6.5 years ago. The Clintons' terror pardons. It was nearly 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve, 1982. Two officers on New York Police Department's elite bomb squad rushed to headquarters at One Police Plaza, where minutes earlier an explosion had destroyed the entrance to the building. Lying amid the carnage was police officer Rocco Pasquarella. His lower leg was blown off. It was ripped up like someone took a box cutter and shredded his face, remembered Detective Anthony Simpson, one of the bomb squad officers who answered the call 25 years ago, and now, of course, would be longer than that. We really didn't even know that he was a uniformed man until we found his weapon. That's how badly he was injured. About 20 minutes later, Mr. Senft and his partner, Richard Pastorella, were blown 15 feet into the air as they knelt in protective gear to defuse another bomb. Detective Senft was blinded in one eye, his facial bones shattered, his hips severely fractured. Mr. Pastorella was blinded in both eyes and lost all his fingers of his right hand. A total of 4 bombs exploded in a single hour on that night, including at FBI headquarters in Manhattan and the federal courthouse in Brooklyn. 1982. The perpetrators were members of Armed Forces of National Liberation, or FALN, the Spanish acronym, a clandestine terrorist group devoted to bringing about independence for Puerto Rico through violent means. The FALN. Time to, let's see here, excuse me. Let's see, the FALN. Now, this group, its members waged war in America with bombings, arson, kidnappings, prison escapes, threats, intimidation. The most gruesome attack was the 1975 Francis Tavern bombing in Lower Manhattan. Time to go off during the lunch hour, rush hour. The explosion decapitated one of 4 people killed and injured, another 60. The FALN bragged about the bloodbath, called the victims reactionary corporate executives, and threatening. You have unleashed a storm from which you comfortable Yankees cannot escape, so they said. By 1996, the FBI had linked the FALN to 146 bombings in a string of armed robberies, a reign of terror that resulted in 9 deaths and hundreds of injured victims. On August 7, 1999, the one-year anniversary of the U.S. African Embassy bombings that killed 257 people and injured 5,000. Then President Bill Clinton reaffirmed his commitment to the victims of terrorism, vowing that he will not rest until justice is done, quote unquote. 4 days later, when Congress was on summer recess, the White House quietly issued a press release announcing that the president was granting clemency to 16 imprisoned members of the FALN, the Puerto Rican terrorist nationalist group. What began as a simple paragraph on the AP wire exploded into a major controversy. Compare this to January 6, America. By the way, I make no excuses for violence, but compare them. And compare President Trump to President Clinton. Mr. Clinton justified the clemencies by asserting that the sentences were disproportionate to the crimes. None of the petitioners, he stated, had been directly involved in crimes that caused bodily harm to anyone. For me, the president said, the question, therefore, was whether their continuing incarceration served any meaningful purpose. His comments, including the astonishing claim that the FALN prisoners were being unfairly punished because of guilt by association, quote unquote. Guilt by association. Were widely condemned as a concession to terrorists. Further, they were seen as an outrageous slap in the face of the victims and a bitter betrayal of the cops and federal law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line to protect the public and who had invested years of their careers to put these people behind bars. The U.S. Sentencing Commission affirmed a pre-existing Department of Justice assessment that the sentences ranging from 30 to 90 years were, quote, in line with sentences imposed in other cases for similar terrorist activities. What do you think of that, Jake Tapper? The prisoners were convicted on a variety of charges that included conspiracy, sedition, violation of the Hobbs Act, that is extortion by force, violence, or fear, armed robbery, illegal possession of weapons and explosives, including large quantities of C4 plastic explosives, dynamite, huge caches of ammunition. Mr. Clinton's action was opposed by the FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, the U.S. Attorney's offices that prosecuted the cases and the victims whose lives have been shattered in contravention of standard procedures. None of these agencies, victims or families of victims, were even consulted or notified prior to the president's clemency announcement. I know the chilling evidence that convicted the petitioners, wrote Deborah Devaney, one of the federal prosecutors who spent years on the cases. The conspirators made every effort to murder and maim. Few dedicated federal agents are the only people who stood in their way. Observe Judge George Layton, who sentenced 4 FALN defendants for their conspiracy to use military-grade explosives to break an FALN leader out from Fort Leavenworth Penitentiary and detonate bombs on other public buildings. He said, the case represents one of the finest examples of preventative law enforcement that has ever come to our courts. Attention. In the 20 years it's been that I've been a judge, and in the 20 years before that as practicing as a lawyer in the criminal cases, the FBI cracked the cases with the discovery of an FALN safe house and bomb factory. Video surveillance showed 2 of those on the clemency list. firing weapons and building bombs intended for an imminent attack at a U.S. military installation. FBI agents obtained a warrant and entered the premises, surreptitiously disarming the bombs whose components bore the unmistakable FALN signature. They found 24 pounds of dynamite, 24 blasting caps, weapons, disguises, false IDs, thousands of rounds of ammunition. Total of 6 safe houses. 6 were ultimately uncovered. 700 hours of surveillance video were recorded, resulting in a mountain of evidence connecting the 16 prisoners to multiple FALN operations past and present. And it goes on in exquisite detail. At the end, she writes, the FALN clemencies provide a disturbing example of how the abuse or misuse of presidential prerogative under the guise of policy can be put in service of the personal and private activities of the president's spouse. He did this, it was argued at the time, to appeal to the Puerto Rican vote in New York for his wife, Hillary Clinton, who was running for the Senate. And we know Deborah, a personal friend, and her wonderful brother, Chick Burlingame, who was murdered on flight, American Airlines 77, crashed into the Pentagon on 9/11. These people were the enemy of the country. They killed people. They blew things up. They were capable of doing enormous things. It was a domestic terrorist organization. They weren't people caught up on January 6th. Again, I'm not talking about the very violent people, but the others. And Bill Clinton gave them clemency. Except for one. Oscar Lopez Rivera, the leader of the pack. That was even too much for Clinton. He gave all the rest of them clemency, but not this guy. This guy showed no remorse. None. Writing in the New York Times, Christopher Millihan. This is in 2017. Barack Obama commutes the sentence of FALN member Oscar Lopez Rivera. Obama on Tuesday commuted the sentence of a man convicted for his role in a Puerto Rican nationalist group linked to more than 100 bombings in New York and other cities in the 70s and 80s. The man, Oscar Lopez Rivera, was serving a 70-year sentence after being convicted of numerous charges, including seditious conspiracy, a charge used for those plotting to overthrow the United States government. Actually charged and convicted of sedition. He was linked to the radical group known as the FALN, the Spanish acronym for the Armed Forces of the National Liberation, was one of more than a dozen group members convicted in the 80s. Under Mr. Obama's commutation order, Lopez Rivera's prison sentence will expire on May 17. It was one of 209 grants of commutation by the president announced on Tuesday. Again, this is from 2017. The FALN, which waged a violent campaign for the independence of Puerto Rico, was considered by the authorities to be among the most elusive and resilient terrorist organizations to operate in the United States. Most among its notable attacks was the bombing of the Francis Tavern in New York in 1975 that killed 4 people. The group was known for its tight-knit membership, fanatical zeal, hit-and-run tactics, as exemplified by the bombings of 4 government buildings in Manhattan and Brooklyn on New Year's Eve in 1982. Also seriously wounded 3 police officers. Lopez Rivera was not specifically charged in the bombing, but more broadly with, among other things, the interstate transportation of firearms, with the intent to commit violent crime. He was the leader of the group. And transportation of explosives with intent to kill and injure people and to destroy government buildings and property. President Clinton offered Mr. Lopez Rivera and other members of the FALN clemency in 1999, a decision that stirred an emotional debate. Clinton said their sentences were out of proportion with their offenses. While 12 prisoners accepted the offer and were freed, Lopez Rivera rejected the chance to reduce his sentence, because it didn't include all the group's members. His lawyer, John Sussler, said at the time, if he had accepted the agreement, she said, he would have been eligible for release in 2009. While a senior Obama administration official said Lopez Rivera had served nearly half of his life in prison, was the only FALM member still in prison. In 1981, he was sentenced to 55 years for seditious conspiracy. In 88, he was sentenced to an additional 15 years for conspiring to escape from a prison, that is, in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. In an earlier interview with El Nuevo Dia, Mr. Lopez said, I want to enjoy Puerto Rico, my family, but like to work. I have some skills organizing, helping young people that I want to share with people. Well, isn't that sweet? So Clinton gave clemency to the bulk of them. He wouldn't give clemency to this guy. I remember this at the time because he wouldn't show remorse. It wasn't, well, my lord. But Obama did. These are and were domestic terrorists who did horrendous damage or contributed to it. Killed people, injured people. If not directly, they contributed to the organization and its terrorist mission. Clinton gives clemency. Obama gives clemency to the ringleader. And Jake Tapper, a Democrat, dares to keep asking Republicans about January 6th. Think about it, America. Think about it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. What I try and bring to this program is information, is knowledge, because I am convinced patriots who are informed, patriots who can pass on the word, patriots, you can counter the counter-revolution to the American Revolution. You can counter the media. You see, there's more of us than there are people who subscribe to newspapers. There's more of us than there are people who watch any of the networks or cable channels, any. There are more of us. We got to think about early on in the founding of this nation. We have the ability to use emails, ladies and gentlemen, and texts and phone calls. Breakfast table, dinner table, Labor Day weekend. Can you imagine? 14.5 million listeners every week, and that's a low number. If you talk to 2 or 3 or 4 people, I'm telling you, you can make the difference. The pollsters don't know you. How many have even been contacted by a pollster any time in your life? Probably the vast majority of you have not. And the pollsters are always wrong. But we need to fight like we're behind no matter what. We need at least a 2-3% fraud margin as the Democrats are trying to register illegal aliens. We know this for a fact, as the Democrats are using federal and state offices to try and register Democrats, as the state of Wisconsin and the state of Michigan are forcing Robert Kennedy to keep his name on the ballot, even though he wants it removed in order to draw votes away from Donald Trump. These people are crooks. That's who they are. That's what they are. Zuckerberg all but confessed He didn't like the fact that he was considered and called a partisan, but that his $400 million went mostly to Democrat precincts in the inner cities to turn out the vote. We know what's going on, whether the courts do, whether the media do. It doesn't matter. And so we need to keep that in mind. Very, very important. Kamala Harris doesn't give a damn about you. If she gave a damn about you, maybe you can tell me how. What has she done? She hasn't done anything. And I want to underscore this when we return. I'll be right back. I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
Conservative and proud of it. Call the Mark Levin Show at 877-381-3811.
Here's what we know about Kamala Harris. She doesn't care about the American people, especially you, hardworking middle-class Americans. She doesn't give a damn about you. She doesn't care about the deaths, the sex slavery, the drugs, the criminals coming across the border. She's been vice president for nearly 4 years, and she's done nothing to stop it. In fact, she says it's not her job, but it is her job. She does not care about the middle class struggling over inflation, the cost of gasoline and electricity, the cost of food. She doesn't care if you lose your job or cannot find a job. She does not care if you have to run up your credit card. She doesn't care if you and your family are struggling. And she did nothing to fix it. She's the vice president. She just does not care. She doesn't care about women's rights because she supported destroying women's sports and athletic scholarships. She does not care about protecting little children from sex change operations because she chose Tampon Tim as her running mate, who believes the state, not mothers and fathers, should have the final say on sex change operations for minors. Kamala Harris wants to outlaw your car and your truck and force you to buy electric vehicles whether you like it or not, whether you can afford it or not. She doesn't care how it impacts you and your family. Kamala Harris does not care about senior citizens because she believes illegal aliens should receive Social Security, Medicare, which she knows will bankrupt those insurance programs, making it impossible for you to receive your pension and health care, which you paid for your entire working life. Your entire working life. Think about that. She wants to destroy your private health care, even if you like it, even if your employer contributes to it. And she wants Washington, D.C. to make your medical decision. She wants Washington to decide what procedures, medicines, and care you should receive, whether you like it or not. Kamala Harris, she's had nearly 4 years as vice president to show us who she is. She's an uncaring politician with a radical ideology. And despite her campaign of lies and flip-flops and hide-and-seek, we know who Kamala Harris is. We know her actions. We know her inaction. We know she doesn't care about working people, about the middle class, about the American citizen. We know she doesn't respect you. She doesn't care. Ask the families of the 13 service member heroes who died during the surrender of Afghanistan if Kamala Harris cares about our young people and our military. Ask the cops in the street trying to protect you from murderers, rapists, and thugs if Kamala Harris cares about law-abiding citizens. Ask the families and women raped and murdered by illegal aliens and the teenagers cut to shreds by gangs from El Salvador and Venezuela if Kamala Harris cares about you. She can hide. She can lie. But the truth will set us free. The truth will set us free. That's how we need to deal with Kamala Harris. It's the truth. That's how you smoke out Kamala Harris. That's how you force her to respond. You just keep hammering away. Because the truth is, she could care less about any of you listening to this program. She's a Marxist Islamist. That's what she is. You don't have to be bright, and she's not, to work your way up the political ladder in a one-party state like California. When you do certain things in order to work up that ladder, and she did. And she knows how to play the system. And she did. And she still is. You can't tell me 3 things. You can't tell me 2 things. You can't tell me 1 thing that she has done as vice president that is a standout to help you. Every one of you listening to this program, whatever walk of life, whether you're poor or rich or in the middle, whether you're black or white or some other color, whether you're straight or gay, whether you're a man or a woman, you can't tell me 1 damn thing Kamala Harris has done to improve your life. Nothing. Not a thing. She resorts to lies. She resorts to flip-flops, although she doesn't do the flop part. She has others do it for her. She plays hide and seek, and yet she wants to get elected president of the United States. She won't reveal herself, but I think she has. I think she has revealed herself. It's just up to us to point it out. The media will continue to push back and cover up. That's why repetition is important. That's why staying on message is important. That's why all of us, in our own way, have to say to whomever what we need to say. Jake Tapper won't interfere with you talking to friends and family and neighbors and colleagues and anybody you can think of. The media are not there. Some people you'll need to deprogram. Some of them are fanatics and zealots. Just move on. There's always going to be 30, 40% of them. We're not interested. We don't care. It's the others. It's the others. It matters. You matter. What you say and do matters. Jack Smith brings a bill of indictment through a brand new grand jury against Donald Trump yesterday. Really, a couple of weeks before the first primary, which I think is in Pennsylvania. Maybe it's North Carolina, but it's soon. It's very soon. Purposely timed. So Kamala Harris can say she's a prosecutor running against a convicted felon, prosecutor running against a fill-in-the-blank indicted former president. That decision was not made by Smith alone. It was made by the Attorney General of the United States. How do I know? Because I've been there. When it comes to a decision like that, it's not left to some line prosecutor, whether they're special counsel, independent counsel, U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney. The attorney general makes the final decision. This attorney general is corrupt up to his eyeballs. And I have absolutely no doubt that Biden and Harris were tipped off. Can't prove it, obviously. Can't prove a negative. I'm all the way out here. They're all the way over there. But they're corrupt to the core. We've already seen in other instances where, in fact, there was collusion. We saw that Fani Willis or her boyfriend did, in fact, go to the White House. We know, as a matter of fact, there were communications between Manhattan and others. And, of course, at the federal level, they work for the White House, don't they? You have these so-called legal eagles out there splitting hairs, telling you what's strong about the case, what's not strong about the case. You want to hear what I would do, Mr. Producer? I pulled together a motion to stay. And in order to justify that, it would make the case that was made in the Florida federal court that Jack Smith is an unconstitutional prosecutor. He's acting without authority, ultra vires. That he disputes that. In fact, that Jack Smith the day before appealed the decision of the federal district court in Florida, went to the 11th Circuit, has appealed it, is challenging it, is arguing it. And therefore, the federal court in the other jurisdiction, Washington, D.C., at the district court, trial court level, should not be proceeding with anything until the issue of Jack Smith's unconstitutionality or constitutionality is ultimately resolved. That would be Mark's motion, and it would come soon. Now, in their filing, according to the press, it's so persuasive, overwhelmingly persuasive, the press does this all the time, that Jack Smith looked at the history, the appointments of special counsel. And by the way, this brief wasn't written by any prosecutor in Jack Smith's office. This is a all-hands-on-deck Department of Justice job, and I can tell you the Office of Legal Counsel either wrote it or edited it, the final say. That's their brain trust. Not that it's smart, but they're the smartest lawyers in the federal government. That unit was headed at one time by William Rehnquist before he went on the Supreme Court, by Anthony Scalia before he went on the Supreme Court, so you can see the kind of talent that's in there. But that doesn't matter. The smartest lawyers in the world can't turn an apple into an orange. They can't turn a unconstitutional appointment into a constitutional appointment. And so that would be my play. File a motion to stay. And because Jack Smith blew it. How did he blow it? Because Jack Smith is in a hurry. The entire Department of Justice is in a hurry to smear Donald Trump. They wanted to get this thing filed. But what he should have done is filed it, if that's what he was going to do, and wait for President Trump's lawyers to respond, because they undoubtedly would have challenged it. I'm guessing, among other reasons, that he's an unconstitutional appointee, in which case the appeal would have been to the D.C. Circuit if he had been patient. Because the 11th Circuit has no control over the D.C. district courts. The D.C. Circuit is the controlling appellate court. And they would have had to appeal to the D.C. Circuit, which is extremely hostile, filled with Biden, Clinton, and Obama appointees. But he couldn't wait. So he filed an appeal first in the 11th Circuit, then filed his indictment the next day, yesterday, in D.C., two different jurisdictions. And ultimately, this will have to go to the Supreme Court, I imagine. But one of the arguments they make in their brief is, look, institutionally, the Justice Department has always done this sort of thing, which is not true. You have two former attorneys general, Meese and McCasey, who both signed a brief that was filed, friend of the court, an amicus brief, in support of Donald Trump and his lawyers in Florida, as did Landmark Legal Foundation, which used, among others, the number one expert on the planet on the Appointments Clause, who writes a law review article about it every year, very eccentric but very brilliant. He's an Orthodox Jew. He lives, I think, in Ireland or England. But he was enlisted, as well as their fantastic litigator. And the case was made, and she wrote a bulletproof argument, I felt, Judge Cannon. Now, that doesn't mean some other judges can't change course. That said, if I were the Trump lawyers, I would file that motion, and I would make it abundantly clear that two former attorneys general do not agree with the current administration, do not agree with this prosecutor, that, in fact, they would know institutional knowledge better than most because they were in charge of the United States Department of Justice and the prosecutors therein. And they said no. He's an unconstitutional appointee. This was filed to try and damage Donald Trump further, literally weeks before the first early voting begins, because there will not be a trial. There'll be motions filed. They will have to be argued. This was all done, once again, to try and use lawfare against President Trump. It is a disgusting disgrace. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. I've got something crucial to share with you. Folks, this is a big deal. And it starts at 9 p.m. tonight, right at the end of this program. I am so proud of this. I'm so excited about this. And if I can ever persuade you to do something, I don't know, please let this be the time. I was in Israel while it was under siege in April, as were members of my family, when the Iranian missiles flew over Jerusalem. I stood shoulder to shoulder with these people. Last October 7th, the world witnessed, you witnessed, a new level of barbarity that we'd never heard of or even seen before. The brutality is unspeakable to little babies, to children, to women, teenagers. Cold-blooded atrocities, unspeakable. So horrendous that these monsters took video, but nobody will show it. Nobody will show it.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Kamala Harris, we know who you are. You can play hide and seek all you want. The truth shall set us free. Here's Kamala Harris just 5 years ago. An adult in her 50s. Tough prosecutor, don't you know? October 2019, cut 4 go.
Being incarcerated for a couple of days is traumatic, much less the weeks, months, and years that we're seeing that happen. And so part of my plan is also a reduction of that. And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools. We need to deal with the reality and speak the truth about the inequities around school discipline.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, given the horrors that have occurred in some of these schools in our country, the mass murders in Texas, in Connecticut, and elsewhere, Florida, shouldn't this be a game changer? Take the police out of our schools? What is this demilitarizing our schools? What the hell does that mean? Who talks like this? Demilitarizing our schools. Attack the cops? The security guards? So what's her answer for protecting our schools? I want you to listen to how immature, dense, extremist, ideological this woman is. I want you to listen again. And I am disappointed that some of the organizations out there that had formed after these mass murders aren't condemning her, quite frankly. Taking police officers out of schools, quote unquote. Demilitarizing our schools, whatever the hell that means. She just hates law enforcement, hates cops. But even more than that, she must hate children because those cops are there, not because they want to be, because they have to be. To protect our little kids, our children, our grandchildren. Does this sound like somebody gives a damn about your children and grandchildren and their safety? Does it? Does it? Does it sound like somebody who cares about it? Does it? Cut 4 again. Go.
Being incarcerated for a couple of days is traumatic, much less the weeks, months, and years that we're seeing that happen. And so part of my plan is also a reduction of that. And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools. We need to deal with the reality and speak the truth about the inequities around school discipline.
The inequity of school discipline. Hate the cops and then spew the racism. And she, of course, opposes school choice. Of course. Oh, there's a lot more. June 2020. She's still at it. Cut 5, go.
Again, we need to reimagine how we are achieving public safety in America. And to have cities where 1/3 of their entire budget is going to policing, but yet there is a dire need in those same cities for mental health resources, for resources going into public schools, resources going into job training and job creation. Come on, we have to be honest about this, that there is actually not a consensus around this, because if there were, we would actually see smarter distribution of resources in our country.
What does that mean? What does that mean? 1/3 of their entire budget is going to policing. Okay, well, where should it go? To illegal aliens? Where should it go? I don't care if it's 1/3. I don't care if it's 2/3. I don't care if it's 1/4. You got to do what you got to do to protect your cities and to protect the people in the cities. That's the number one job. This is the tough prosecutor, mind you, America. The tough prosecutor. And so we had to reimagine all these things. Yeah, well, we have. And what happened? June 2020. What happened in the summer 2020? So she picks this guy, Tampon Tim, as her running mate. What did he do? Minneapolis burned. Is that what you want in your big cities? You want them to burn? Minneapolis, hate to say this, will never recover. Minneapolis burned. I don't know about you, but I don't want the country turned into Minneapolis and San Francisco. I don't want the country turned to our once beloved California. These are the examples of Harris and Tampon Tim. This is the outcome. We need to reimagine how we are achieving public safety in America. Okay, let me reimagine. Throw the book at criminals, they go into prison, and they serve their sentences. There, I reimagined it, Mr. Producer. And what happens? So she doesn't like the cops. How about securing the country and the border? That's the number one job of a president, just so you know. Not to redistribute wealth, not to hand out goodies, not to punish people who are minding their own business and earning a living. No, to secure the nation. She wants to reimagine that, too. Here she is in 2019, 5 short years ago. Cut 6, go.
Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances, and I do support border security. And if we want to talk about that, let's do that.
No wall under any circumstances. I hear today now she favors a wall. Do you believe her? Tell me, how much damage has been done to this country, to fellow citizens, because of her view and Biden's view on the border, which they implemented? I don't care what she says today. I'm not like all the others. We need to focus on what she does and does not do. She's the vice president of the United States. She takes no responsibility for what's going on the border, the second most powerful official in the nation. She wants a promotion. She wants a promotion. And she wants a promotion by lying. I don't care where you work, whether you work in a school, whether you have a union, a plumber's union, an electrician's union. I don't care. A law firm. What do you think about somebody who lies in order to try and get the top slot, the top position? Is that okay? The border wall is Trump's vanity project, you see. And she doesn't want to see a wall. Here she said, again in 2019, cut 7, go.
There was a bipartisan effort out of the United States Senate and the United States Congress to pass a funding of the government, and the president is holding it up because of his vanity project, which is this wall, at taxpayers' expense and at the expense of hundreds of thousands of workers who are working every day without being paid.
See? She doesn't want a wall, never wanted a wall. She should have said, okay, I'll vote for it. I'll help break the logjam, but she didn't. Now I'm going to support a wall. She'll say anything. But look at her actions. Better yet, look at her inactions. She's never given a damn about securing that border. She has said time and again that if somebody comes across the border, number one, you're not to call them an illegal alien, and number two, it shouldn't be a crime. So what's left? She promotes a so-called bipartisan bill that would codify in federal law catch and release, work permits for illegal aliens, taxpayer-funded lawyers for illegal aliens. Do you have a taxpayer-funded lawyer as a citizen? 5,000 illegal aliens a day, which is 1.8 million per year. That's 18 million over 10 years, and that doesn't even count the gotaways. This is the bill she would sign. Billions and billions for sanctuary cities, billions and billions for pro-illegal alien non-government organizations to bring lawsuits and so forth on behalf of illegal aliens. That's just 5 issues. And that's how we secure the border. We do that's how we do it. Yeah, that's how we do it here. Yeah. I'm sure Dana Bash will be all over this. Dana Schwartz Bash. I don't believe in hiding your name. Oh, well, I'm not done now. Yeah, we got the cops, and we don't want a border wall, and ICE. ICE is the enemy. Remember what she said about ICE? The perception is you're like the Klan, like the Ku Klux Klan. The perception is you're like the Ku Klux Klan. This is the woman who ran with somebody who was supported by Ku Klux Klanners, was supported by George Wallace, Stennis, Eastland, Talmadge, Byrd. No. The Border Patrol. These are brave American citizens who put up with more crap. And by the way, the majority of them are Hispanic. And they're bilingual. And they're patriotic Americans. Because they know everybody who comes across the border, regardless of their ethnicity, isn't a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. Can I even say that? Or do we have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts still, Mr. Producer? Or He Scouts and She Scouts? Or It Scouts? So here she is attacking ICE. And we had to reimagine ICE. How about we reimagine her as a loser? Cut 8. Go.
The Trump administration released a regulation that could drastically cut the number of legal immigrants allowed to enter and stay in the U.S. by making it easier to reject green cards and visa applications.
Listen to how these reporters ask questions. Yes, they want to cut immigration. We can't cut immigration. What do you say to that? They want to cut immigration. Go ahead.
With what we just saw out of Mississippi, the ICE operation there, what does this say to you?
Well, it's just an ongoing campaign of his to vilify a whole group of people.
Oh, is that what it is?
As he does with so many things, be ignorant about the history of our country, who we are, how we were founded, and what our values are.
I'd love to question this woman. I would give $10,000. I give $100,000 for 1 hour, no holds bar. She doesn't get to make the rules about the history of our country. I'd love to. She's as dim-witted as they come. Go ahead.
This is an issue that, when I look specifically at what he's been doing with these raids, listen, I serve on Senate Homeland
Who's
Security.
been doing with these raids, you idiot? You moron? Trump's been doing with raids? Go ahead.
Attorney General of California, and a district
You Attorney General of California, you let pedophiles go. It's the most underreported story this election season by every single cable channel and every single network and every single talk show. It is. That there were a whole group of people, a lot of them, predators, who had molested middle school and high school kids. And I had one of them on my program last week. And you would have thought it didn't happen. It's the highest rated show Saturday. This Saturday was the highest rated show Sunday. And yet nobody talks about it. Not even the good guys. Go ahead.
Transnational criminal organizations. I'm going to tell you, put those resources where they need to be, because there are limited resources. Instead, this guy, Donald Trump, wants to send
limited resources, too much money for ICE, limited resources, too much money for the cops. Never enough money for illegal aliens. She's a clown. Go ahead.
Order to have some grand display based on his agenda about vilifying people and building a wall which will never get
First of all, he's not vilifying people. You are. You're the racialist. You're the one who attacked people who don't agree with you as racist. You're the one who attacked people who don't agree with you as misogynist. You hide behind race, you hide behind sex, you hide behind everything. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Hates the cops. Doesn't want cops in schools to protect the children. Hates ICE, the Border Patrol. Wow. And she wants a raise. She wants a promotion. What do you think of that, America? Wants a promotion. She opposes oil drilling. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of an idiot opposes oil drilling? Fracking. Think about all the uses for petroleum, agriculture, just basic movement of trucks and automobiles. Many of you are going to be driving or flying on Labor Day weekend. Well, you can't do it with propellers and solar panels and wind. Why are we dealing with stupid people who waste trillions of our dollars and pretend that they know what the hell they're talking about when they don't know a damn thing? They don't even know how to light a match, and there they are talking about heat and energy and all that. These are stupid people. ideologues. She opposed fracking. Now, of course, she supports it because Pennsylvania is the fourth biggest producer of oil. Did you know that? Did you know that, Mr. Producer? It's huge. Well, people in southeastern Pennsylvania don't know it either, where I grew up in Philadelphia, in the suburban area. They wouldn't know that. They don't know it to this day. I'm against it. Let me tell you something else that the media are not telling you. And I saw some expert on oil. You see these libs on TV, including on my favorite network, and they go on there and say, we've got more oil than we had when Donald Trump was. Let me tell you something. It is the private land development and production that's going in overdrive. Overdrive. The government land is almost completely blocked from Anwar and throughout the rest of the country because those drilling leases have to come from the Department of Interior, where I was once the deputy solicitor, the number 2 lawyer under Reagan. And so the power they have is enormous. BLM, not that BLM, Bureau of Labor Management, of Land Management, rather, BLM, among others. And they blocked them. So all the production that's occurring, the vast majority, overwhelming majority, is on private lands, and they take credit for it. Then they suck all the oil out of the strategic oil reserve that's intended for emergencies and war. Just think about this. And these idiots are going on. And so the spokes idiot for the campaign, this guy named Michael Tyler, he's asked about this. Believe it or not, John Berman had a rational moment. It's not often, but he did. After the break, I'll have to play it for you because it's too long. But listen to the way these people just lie. And they figure, what the problem? What the hell? The low information voters, the no information voters, they'll go along. Joyous. But I want to play this when I come back just to make the point. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the research arm of conservative media. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
So this guy, Michael Tyler, maybe you've seen him bouncing around on TV. He's a campaign spokes idiot for Harris. And they keep bringing up this Project 2025. Now, me, I like Project 2025. But I'm not running for president. And Donald Trump says, look, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not getting involved in it. Probably a wise move because they keep bringing it up. And they keep lying about it. Cut 10, go.
But I do want to ask about at least one policy area that I imagine will come up at some point, which is fracking. The vice president has changed her position on fracking in Pennsylvania. Do you know why she's changed her position?
Listen, I mean, she's been very clear here. She's proud of the work that she's done as a part of this administration, making sure...
Stop. What work has she done? What are they talking about? What has she done exactly? Go ahead.
American energy production is at an all-time high. We want to continue that progress into her first term in office here. And again, I think whether it's energy policy, economic policy writ large, that you have a fighter in Kamala
Does anybody
Harris.
know what the hell he's saying? Why do they all talk in gibberish? Why do they all spew bull crap? She's been doing this. She's doing what? Go ahead.
Keeping the interests of the American people front and center, coming together to bring people together in search of solutions that actually improve people's quality of life, improve our economy, improve energy production. I think that stands, again, in stark contrast to Donald Trump. Who
What do you mean
say
improves energy production? What the hell are you talking about, pal? Nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. Go ahead.
Pennsylvania may say one thing out on the stump, but frankly, if you look at the totality of his economic agenda, his Project 2025 agenda writ large, the only...
What's with this writ large stuff? And why doesn't Berman say, can you tell me 5 things that are in that Project 2025? Now, Trump has said on the record he opposes it. He's never supported it. That's his position. But what are you talking about exactly? What part of Project 2025? It's like this so-called bipartisan energy bill, immigration bill. I've been sending around the 5 points to everybody I can think of now in the media and elsewhere. And I tell them, she says she will sign this. Look at these 5 points. Now, you're aware of them. I've just told you about it the first 2 hours of the program. And so this is what we get. And then we get this guy, Mitch Landrieu, a failed political hack in New Orleans. His sister was the senator. They come from a family of failed political Democrat Party hacks. He's co-chair of the Harris campaign. He's on the Morning Schmo show, which is really a tough interview, obviously. Go ahead, cut 11, please.
What's your data, what's your polling on how much the American public understands about this project, how much they know about it, and how much it might influence their vote?
Well, first of all, they understand Donald Trump. They don't believe a word that's coming out of his mouth.
So stop a second. So she's asking about Project 2025, and he attacks Donald Trump. This is all they've got. And this guy's a punk. Go ahead.
Governor Walz said you don't really create a plan unless you intend on using it. It's what's in the plan that matters. That basically confirms that this race is between two big ideas. One of them is for a guy that thinks about himself, rich billionaires, and getting the power.
Oh, I see. Rich billionaire thinks about himself. Tell me, folks, if you're a rich billionaire, would you go through what Donald Trump's going through? No. You'd sit on your fat ass like George and Alex Soros, or you sit on your fat ass like Bill Gates. Apparently likes chasing young ladies, apparently. Although they don't like being chased by him. Or Warren Buffett, or the other Democrat Party multi-billionaire oligarchs. Let's see, Trump was almost assassinated. He was shot. This way, 7 weeks ago. Look how they talk about him. Look how they dehumanize him still. Look at this. Look at this. They're trying to take his wealth away. They're trying to take his businesses away. They're trying to take his freedom away in 4 different courtrooms. All he does is care about himself, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously? He didn't take a salary. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama became multi-millionaires, hundreds of millions of dollars. Al Gore became a multi-millionaire. I think I read $150 to $200 million. These are the grifters. These are the grifters. Joe Biden became a multi-millionaire thanks to really foreign money. But Donald Trump just, he's just a billionaire. He's a blue-collar billionaire. That's what I coined, and that's what he is, and that's what he believes. I don't know how many blue-collar workers Kamala Harris has ever worked with, or Joe Biden. They claim, the unions support us. But I do know that Trump built a skyline, and it wasn't built with billionaires and millionaires. It was built with hard-working Americans. And by the way, you can be a billionaire and millionaire and be a hardworking American too, but I'm talking about people who use their hands. Carpenters, electricians, plumbers, roofers, tile layers. On and on and on. So many trades. So many families who benefit when a billionaire like Donald Trump is building a building. The workers benefit. Their families benefit. They get a paycheck. They can contribute to a pension, medical care. Oh, that's so awful. So awful. I don't know what this punk Landrieu's ever done. He was able to run for office because of Big Daddy was very powerful and very famous. But that's about it. Hasn't accomplished another. New Orleans. I love New Orleans. Violent place, like most of these cities. So I'm going to take a break. When we come back, you want to hear some positive stuff? I do. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, before we run out of time, J.D. Vance is actually doing a hell of a job. He's out there pounding away. I want you to listen to this. Today in Erie, Pennsylvania. Cut 13, go.
And the other thing our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. I don't, look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened. And she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Attaboy. Yep. Cut 14, Mr. Producer, go.
If you force all these great truckers to buy electric trucks instead of the trucks they're currently using, you're going to make this inflation crisis way worse than it currently is. You think groceries are bad? Wait until Kamala Harris makes every American trucker drive an electric truck. You think car prices are bad? Wait until Kamala Harris makes everybody buy a Chinese-made electric vehicle. And you think housing prices are bad? Wait until Kamala Harris makes it impossible for our truckers to get construction materials to the house building site. Kamala Harris's policies are a disaster, ladies and gentlemen, not just for truckers, but for everybody who relies on them, which is everybody.
Mm-hmm. You know, America, it's funny. The Democrats always say follow the science. We had the pandemic. They refused to follow the science. They made up science. To have an 18-wheeler run on a battery, first of all, the battery and the system related to it would take up 1/3 of all the space in the vehicle. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? These would be massive contraptions. And as President Trump has said, the trucks would be so heavy, almost all of our bridges would have to be retrofitted. They'd have to be changed. Or new bridges would have to be built. The infrastructure just on roads, pavements, asphalt would be a disaster. And where the hell are these truckers going to go to charge their trucks? And if they find a place, do you know how long it's going to take to charge a truck with that size of a battery? I mean, this is basic stuff. And then finally, where's all this electricity coming from? The vast majority of electricity is produced by, ready? Oil and coal. If it wasn't for private drilling, we would have a huge shortage of fuel in this country. We would have brownouts and blackouts. And you may not know this, but the electrical grid is already being stretched and strained. They have no plan for this. This is why America, when you read American Marxism, I have a huge section on this so-called climate change stuff. It's the degrowth movement. They know what they're doing. Not the politicians, the activists, the radicals. It's a war on growth. It's a war on prosperity. It's a war on capitalism. It's a war on industrial America. All you people who work on assembly lines, all you people who work with your hands and you need these materials, whether they're refined or they're natural materials and so forth and so on, you're the target. You're the target. And they will put you out of work, and the end products that you create that are so crucial to this country will not be produced. This movement started in the 1970s. There was a huge meeting in Europe, a collection of Marxists. And they came up with this entire plot. And it's in the book. And it is proven in the book. It's in the book. But forget about the book. Just listen to what I'm telling you. It's not about green. It's not about the environment. It's about the war on America and the war on advanced industrial societies. That's what it is. And it's taken hold in our country. People are getting rich off of it. People are getting powerful off of it. People are getting elected to high office over it. Look right now at the anarchy in the entire automobile production area. the big automakers, they don't know what to do. They're being ordered to make electric vehicles. You don't want them. It costs a lot of money and time to change the assembly line. It's not, you don't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden we go from gasoline engines, combustion engines to batteries. It doesn't work that way. And so we have basically confusion in an entire industry because of the government. We have contradictions. We have inefficiencies, subsidies. So advancement, basically, development has been killed. But Mark, look at all the electric cars. Like I said, advancement and development has been killed. None of this is coming around naturally. I mean, if you want an electric car, as Trump says, I agree. Go ahead and get it. But why does everybody have to have it? Oh, and she said today she's never said that, Mr. Producer. Never said that. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. Give them hell. We back you even though Harris, Biden do not. And America, the home of the great patriots. God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you tomorrow.